welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. Hello, Ted Coley.
Hey, Fred. How you doing?
I'm doing spectacular. How's your week been this week?
All right, I guess.
Well, my week was all right, and then by the end of the week, it was crappy. I told you outside of Beacon of Speech. You remember the ducks from about 10 episodes ago?
Yes, I like the ducks.
Our neighbors called the animal control and said, we need to get rid of these ducks. And so we gave them away to a nice old gentleman in Avon. So if you live in Avon, Ohio, and you've got annoying ducks, that's my fault. So I apologize.
That's also where you work now, right?
Yes,
Avon?
I work in Avon. That's the whole story. I'm working in Avon now, and
Is this Paul Harvey? The rest of the story.
the rest of the story. For work, I had to go down the street, and at the end of the street, it's not a cul-de-sac. It's literally a dead-end street with a bar at the end, right? And,
a bar like that you drink in?
Oh no! A guardrail. It's just a guardrail at the end of the street. There is no cul-de-sac. You just if you don't stop and turn around, you'll drive into the guardrail. The guardrail keeps you from going into French Creek, right? If you look down below the road about 20 feet, there's a creek with about 30 ducks, right? And here, the reason is because on the other side of the creek, the guy has a pet duck. Well, the one pet duck that he has, or the two or three that he has, turned into 30 wild ducks showing up and eating all his food. You see what I'm saying? So they hang out in the creek and then they fraternize with the other ducks. So when I saw that, I said, hey, do you want some ducks? And the guy's like, wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so you saw it. You didn't find this on the internet?
No, yeah.
I just came across it.
Because I was tempted just to take the ducks and throw them in the creek and drive away. And I'm like, no, because that's somebody's yard. You know what I mean? And that wouldn't be right. And so we talked to him, and he was a super nice guy. So, and as a matter of fact, his wife is at the Woolly Bear Festival today. Did you have... Yeah, I don't know why that is. And anymore, I don't even... Me and Ted are looking at the...
Well, no, is that a hair or is that a scratch or what?
It should be a hair. So, we're looking at the sound file. But his wife is at the Woolly Bear Festival. Did you have any interest in going to the Woolly Bear Festival today?
No. Did Dick Goddard make it there?
Dick Goddard, they said because he broke his hip or broke his leg, he might not be there for the first time in 40 years. So that's why every year we say we're going to go and then we never go. And we live in Lorain County. Did your parents ever take you to Woolly Bear Festival?
No. Now, what's the thing with the Woolly Bear is... Can you tell how bad the winter's going to be by how thick their coat is?
Supposedly the Woolly Bear is all brown, and if it's going to be a hard winter, there's a lot of black. If it's going to be an easy winter, there's a tiny little bit of black. Well, basically all it is voodoo or witchcraft, whatever you want to say. But, they romanticize it and they say, oh, the Woolly Bear is able to predict the winter, blah, blah, blah. It's a bunch of hooey. But it's nice. It's a nice little country festival.
Well, what do they look like this year?
Oh, I don't know, because no two Woolly Bears are the same. If this works, all the Woolly Bears should look the same. Well, they all look different. And it's okay. Because all the Woolly Bear is a caterpillar for a moth. I don't even think it's a butterfly. I think it's a caterpillar for a moth, and then they wrap themselves up, and then they're a moth next year. All it is an excuse to have a little festival in their sleepy town.
So, what town is that?
Well, we gave the ducks away to Avon, which is in Lorain County, but the Woolly Bear Festival is in the other part of Lorain County, in Vermilion. Vermilion, Ohio. So you get a free plug for next year. We could do festival plugs for the rest of our life. So you want to do that, Ted? We could put festivals, the awesome festival here. On Channel 3, I saw today was the Huntsburg Pumpkin Festival. And they gave this little kid, it was funny, we're watching Channel 3 News, right? And there's this reporter, this 28-year-old lady, think of a good-looking woman reporter, and you're thinking of her. And they're like, oh, it's a pumpkin festival, and you can smash a pumpkin. And then they gave this little 6-year-old a mallet, which is a bad idea to begin with. So little kid's wailing on this pumpkin. Nothing's happening. And I'm like, oh, this is good internet material. He beat it like 20 times, and finally the reporter lady goes, I will avenge you. And she picks up the pumpkin and throws it on the ground. I'm like, see, that's the glory of live TV. You never know what's going to happen. Ted is looking at me.
It wasn't what's her name, Noreka? You know who I'm talking about?
No, it was it was the weekend reporter, the low lady on the totem pole, because she had to work Sunday morning and go to the Huntsburg Pumpkin Festival.
The Gary of the news or whatever.
Now we are in very low impact mode. Usually I'm screaming by now. Usually you get to the 5-minute mark and I'm already screaming my head off about something. Today, Ted, I have no outline. Ask me, Fred, why do I have no outline?
Why do you have no outline?
You know why, Ted? This week, I wrote 2 articles for the Beacon of Speech blog. The first one is one of my favorite bands of all time, No Means No. They broke up. We're going to talk about that. And then the other thing has to do with, what's everything on the news about?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. The other article I wrote was about Donald Trump and Gary Johnson and Hillary Clinton. So I don't even want to talk about it, but I know that's where we're going to end up going.
I was talking to one of the guys at work, and I said, the choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump kind of reminds me of, like, remember on 9/11 when the people trapped in the buildings either had to burn to death or jump to their death?
Yeah, they're on, and again, I'm sorry to bring the room down, but they said there were people on the roof, and they were jumping. Well, why were they jumping? Because they couldn't get down. And are we going to burn to death or are we going to jump to death? You're right.
That's sort of like the choice in this election.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wrote about. And let's not go there first. We'll go there second. First of all, so No Means No is a punk band from Canada, okay? 2 guys, Robin and John Wright, I believe, are their names. They're the Wright brothers, not the ones who did the airplane. And they started No Means No in Canada 35 years ago, right? They've been playing punk music for 35 years, and they broke up. They broke up this week. And technically, No Means No is a threesome, but the guitarist / lead singer, because they all took turns doing everything in the band, right? There was no one guy who did one thing.
There's just 3 guys?
Just 3 guys. The one guy left the band a month ago. And the other 2 decided it's been 35 years. We can't get another, we're too old for this. We're punks that are in our 50s. We're just going to break up. But it made me sad because for 35 years, they charted their own course. They basically did what they wanted to do. Well, if you're 55 and the only thing on your resume is punk band, where do you go next? You know what I mean? I'm sure if they're musicians, they can get other jobs. They could probably even teach music. You know what I mean? Because they said they started the band when they were in college. So in theory, I assume they probably have college degrees. But it just made me sad because it's like, well, what do you do next? You know what I mean? No matter what you do next, you will not be charting your own course. You see what I'm saying?
They're from Canada?
They're from Canada. Victoria or Vancouver, Canada. I don't remember which. But they were awesome. They were great. I saw them live. They, I can't say enough nice things about it. So on Beacon of Speech blog, I put No Means No's eulogy, and it was my experience with the band because they were awesome. They were great. If you hear this, go out and buy it. But it also made me sad, and I wanted to flesh it out with you a little bit. If you're 55 and you're starting all over and you got one thing on your resume, you're kind of stuck. Now, granted, it's not America, where they're like, you might as well go kill yourself if you're in your 50s looking for another job. Granted, it's Canada, but I can't imagine that it's going to be an easy job search for them. So that's why I hope they hook up, like, in the music business. Like, oh, we'll produce bands, we'll We'll start our own label, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's things in the music industry that they can do.
Yeah, I'm just picturing them going to get like a regular job, and then that being on their resume.
And that's, yeah, no means no. I'm not familiar with that band. Were you guys popular? But I want to ask you about your band. When your band broke up, you were working in Iron Mountain.
Yes.
And you just said, no more band at night.
I said no means no.
Yeah, yes, you said no means no. The other three trudged on. To your knowledge, none of the other three are like musicians in other bands. They all had to get day jobs.
Oh yeah, I mean we worked like before the band, during the band, after
the band.
Yeah.
You never made enough money where you guys were like, we're gonna jettison our day jobs.
I think I had it written down. I think I made $427 during the band's tenure.
That's awesome. That's about double what I made on my book.
Yeah, so I found it hard to live on that.
Well, that's very sad too.
Yeah.
But did you think that you wanted to do something in music business, or you were like, oh well, that ran its course?
I felt that ran its course.
Oh.
I still love music, but
yeah. Well, I won't talk about the Eagles today unless it's one of our predictions. So
the Eagles are like a sore spot for me.
Yeah. But so we don't want to talk no means no. I'm just saying that was one of the articles. The other article, I don't even want to talk about that yet either. We have 3 predictions. Do you want to open our predictions before we do the second article?
Yeah, why not?
Why don't we do that? I have September 18th, 2016. Okay. Oh, jeez. Okay. The first game of the year for the Cleveland Browns. Okay? The first game of the year for the Cleveland Browns. Me and you were watching a game at your house together, correct?
The first game.
Yep. It was on 9/11.
Yeah.
And we did a prediction show, and we made 30 or 40 predictions. Our very first prediction was, me and you were watching the game. We saw RG3 get hurt.
Yes.
During the game. After the game, Hugh Jackson said, well, we don't know how bad he's hurt. It'll be touch and go. And I'm like, I have eyes. Okay? I said that RG3 is starting quarterback for the Browns, he would be out 4 to 6 weeks. The coach said he didn't know. Well, somehow I knew. Okay? Ted Coley said RG3 would be out 10 to 12 weeks. Right? The reason we predicted, he was injured on the second last play of the game. When he came in for the last play, it was basically his arm was hanging off. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
So somehow me and you could see this on TV, but the coach missed it in real time. Okay? My prediction was 4 to 6 weeks. Yours was 10 to 12 weeks. RG3 was put on injured reserve 3 days after the game. The coach said he missed the play. He missed that he was hurt that bad. Right? I don't know how. Which goes back to this coach is the same as the other coaches. Just spinning his wheels in the mud. So they put him on injured reserve. The rules of injured reserve is if you're on injured reserve, you are out for the season. But one person can come off of injured reserve after 8 weeks. So the coach goes, oh, well, we'll probably just bring RG3 back in 8 weeks. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
The coach said he will probably bring him off in 8 weeks. Now, why would they probably bring him off in 8 weeks? I'm sorry.
Why would they probably bring him off in 8 weeks?
Yeah, probably.
I have no idea.
You know, you're not thinking it all the way through in coach speak. Only one person can be on injured reserve, right?
Yeah.
What happens if they don't think he's ready and they're like, okay, we're going to pull Josh McCown off of injured reserve? Because Josh McCown has a shoulder injury.
Yes.
So they're not going to bring them both back. So when he says probably, he's hedging his bets Maybe one of them is farther along after 8 weeks, and RG3 doesn't come off of injured reserve.
Do they have the same injury?
I don't know if it's exactly the same, but they both have shoulder injuries. So
Non-throwing, right?
yeah. So somehow magically, you and I'm not trying to be a jerk to you, Ted. Okay, but your TV. How big is that TV?
I think it's 20 inches.
20 inches. It's a tube TV, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that.
But it's not a flat screen.
No, it's not.
20-inch TV. Somehow you can see that the Browns quarterback is injured.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I can see the Browns quarterback is injured. Somehow the coach, who is standing 10 yards away, cannot see that the quarterback was injured and sent him out after he was hurt.
It's like, what was he watching if he wasn't watching that?
Yeah. And the whole thing is, and that's why this coach speech drives me crazy. If we had a 100-inch TV, you could be like, well, it must be nice to sit at home and your 100-inch TV and height. Ted, 20-inch TV, okay? It's not, and I'm not trying to pick it on you. I'm just saying that's the TV that it was on. How did he miss that? Just like when Colt McCoy was hurt. How did he miss Colt McCoy and then send him back out? How did RG3 get hurt and then they send him back out? He's literally limping with, his shoulders limping out there.
Fred, a coach has to watch more than one thing.
The coach got 50 things going on. Okay.
The coach has a lot on his plate.
So that prediction, I'm going to say we were both right because I said 4 to 6, you said 10 to 12. The letter of the law is 8 weeks minimum. And then if they don't take him off injured reserve, they can only take one person off injured reserve. In theory, they can say, we're not going to take him off injured reserve. Then it would be a 15-game injury.
I didn't know that I actually gave a time frame.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that I just said he broke his collarbone.
Here's exactly what it said. Fred, 4 to 6 weeks out. And then I said the coach will say, I missed the play, which he did say. I was right about that. And then you said he would be out 10 to 12 weeks. And I split the difference. It was spot on, 8 weeks. I mean, we both were right. I mean, we were slightly different in our thinking. Okay, next prediction.
So these are some of the predictions that we made on September 11th.
Yeah, 2 of them were made on September 11th. 1 was made yesterday. This one is September 30th, 2016. Oh, crap. No, this isn't. Okay, on September 30th, 2016, I'm opening up the prediction. Prediction, Beacon of Speech will be on the radio somewhere. On February, me, you, and Joe were sitting in the Iron Mountain offices when we were still doing it at Iron Mountain. Right? Why was the prediction made? Things keep going wrong, and Joe's wife is having a baby. Right? I think she had the baby in March. And we were having trouble getting a Beacon of Speech where the 3 of us could be together. Right? So the prediction is the Beacon of Speech will be on the radio somewhere. That was my prediction. And I didn't write down what you said. I just wrote down my prediction. Are we on the radio somewhere?
No.
No. So your name is not on here. But I
think I probably said we wouldn't be.
Well, you would be right. But so 7 months ago, I said we'd be on the radio somewhere, and we are not. So I was wrong about that prediction. So that is very sad. I'm bringing myself. This is like the sad Beacon of Speech. We should have Debbie Downer in the back where we'll be on the radio somewhere. Wah, wah. Sorry, you're still doing the webcasts. This one was made last week. 10/1/16. We're going to open this up. Last week, the Browns again. The Browns lost 30-24 in overtime. The Browns kicker went 3 for 6. That accounted for 9 points. Any of those 3 misses, the Browns would have won because they would have got 3 points in regulation. They lost in overtime. Fred, again, he predicted Hugh Jackson would cut the kicker the next day. Ted said he begrudgingly agreed. Hugh Jackson said
I didn't see the kicks, or
The kicker is young. The kicker was only with us for 2 days. I'm going to give him a pass and keep him. So, even though Hugh Jackson's only been coached for 4 games, they're on their way to losing their 4th game when he came in here. He has already been wrong twice. Okay? So when people say same old Browns, that's what they're talking about. Same old Browns.
Did you hear what I said? Wouldn't it be funny if he said he didn't see the play?
Yeah. The kicker missed the field goal? Yeah, he missed 3 kicks. I was checking the linebacker core. Oh, if I would have known he missed 3 kicks, we would have cut him. So Hugh Jackson, as of Game 4, is just like Pat Shurmur, just like Rob Chudzinski, just like, who's the other one they whacked in a year? Chudzinski, Shurmur, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I can't think.
He's the one who was the last game of last year.
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Do you know it and you're trying to test me? Or?
No, I can't remember. But they whacked him. They whacked him and brought in Hugh Jackson. And the guy thought he had more than 1 year. It's like, why would you think you have only 1 year? Everybody thinks they got more than 1 year and then they only get 1 year. You think of it, we'll come back to it.
Yeah, I don't know why this is a problem, but I can't.
So the other article I wrote, well, I don't want to get bogged down on the Browns. So the other article I wrote this week, do you know who Bill Maher is?
Yes.
Bill Maher came out on Friday. He said, Donald Trump cannot be president. It would be reckless to vote for him. Right? Who did Bill Maher attack on Friday? Because we cannot have Donald Trump as president.
Who did he attack on Friday?
Who did he attack on Friday? Now, it's a trick question, Ted.
Is it Donald Trump?
Donald Trump is a danger to America. Who can we not vote for?
Bill Maher said we cannot vote for Donald Trump.
Nope. He said that not voting for Donald Trump should be a given. You shouldn't have to think about that. You cannot vote for Gary Johnson. To vote for Gary Johnson would be irresponsible. And Sarah Silverman, she's a comedian also, she was on his show. She said, Bill Maher, you are right. Do not vote for Gary Johnson. Now, the reason that they brought this up is because they are both Bernie Sanders supporters, right? Now, and again, this is in the blog article that I wrote yesterday. I sent it to the Daily Liberator and asked if they would pick it up. I'll find out tomorrow if they pick it up nationally or not. Bill Maher, Sarah Silverman, both were huge Bernie Sanders supporters, right? Now, did Bernie Sanders lose the Democratic nomination fair and square, or did he get the screw job? Your opinion, again.
I think he lost it fair and square. I think it was close, but I think he lost.
Well, I know he lost, but I think Bernie Sanders got the screw job. Okay? Now, me and you, we agree to disagree, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're still my partner. We're still awesome. You're still
okay,
awesome.
I assume you're going in this direction, but why do you think that?
I think they stacked the deck every way they could. They were planting stories about Bernie, being old, being crazy. There were some stories where, and again, this is the Democratic Party. They were saying, he's Jewish. Like, people didn't know that. Well, he's Jewish. Well, yeah, what does that have to do anything? We're just saying he's Jewish. Because there's
they were harassing him about being old?
Yeah.
Did they put a AARP?
like it works. But that's the whole thing. They basically, and again, they didn't break the law, but they slanted the table. Me and you talk about slanting the table all the time.
Yeah.
They slanted the table away from Bernie and towards Hillary. Everything's Hillary's advantage. She won. And you say fair and square. I say that Bernie got the screw job. Right? Now, a lot of his supporters are like, well, screw the Democrat Party. They gave Bernie the screw job. We're going to go vote for Gary Johnson. Well, basically, Bill Maher and Sarah Silverman are like, well, it doesn't matter if they gave him the screw job or not. We're all Democrats. We're going to circle the wagons and we're all going to vote for Hillary like good Democrats. Right? And it's like, your guy got screwed. He got the screw job by the Democrats. Not only was he so mad, he turned around and left the Democrat Party after the primaries, correct?
Who did?
Bernie Sanders.
Well, was he? No, is he a senator?
Yes, from Vermont.
And he's independent,
yes,
isn't he?
He is now, yes.
But wasn't he before he ran?
Before he ran, he was independent. And then he came into the Democratic tent. I said, I'm going to change things from the inside. And then they're like, you can change things from the inside all you want, but our nominee is right here. Her name's Hillary Clinton. And then,
he was an independent before he ran.
Right.
And then in order to run, he went with the Democrats.
Right.
And
then he became very popular. He was outdrawing Hillary. He was outdoing everything. He had the mojo. But all their resources went to Hillary, and she won. You're right. They didn't cheat. Technically, they did not cheat, but they slanted the table away from her. And like I said, it was some real, nasty stuff. That'd be like if me and you did Beacon of Speech, right? And we knew that half of the people that listen to Beacon of Speech, I'm looking at your head. They don't like bald people. We know that they don't like bald people. It'd be like, well, we're having a contest to see who's more popular, Fred or Ted. But Ted is bald, right? Ted is bald. And then all throughout the thing, it'd be like, say me and you were getting paid. I was getting the resources, you were getting none of the resources. Do you see what I'm saying? Well, technically, Ted, I'm not cheating. You know what I mean? And then as soon as we get off the radio, you're like, well, screw you, I'm not going to do Beacon of Speech anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the analogy I would use.
Well, I mean, I didn't study it really close, but I know that Hillary got the vast majority of the super delegates.
Right.
But even so, the regular delegates, she was still ahead.
Yes. But
not by an astronomical amount, but she was ahead.
It was like the first primary, the score, I want to say Hillary, it was Iowa or whatever. Hillary won Iowa, and the score was 8-0, right? The next day, all the super delegates pledged Hillary, and then she was winning 500-0 after one state.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. You could turn around and be same thing with me. You could be like, Fred is crazy. You know what I mean? But instead of saying it, you're like, well, I don't want to hold back because we're doing Beacon of Speech together. You know what I mean? So, but that's the whole thing with the Democrats. Again, why are you attacking Gary Johnson? You know what I mean? If you think your candidate is so awesome, why are you attacking Gary? Just keep banging on Trump. I mean, that's what you do. But they are in such dire straits to beat Trump, and they are so close that they have to attack the Johnson supporters for that 8%. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In their minds, they can't win without those Johnson supporters. Well, guess what? Maybe you guys shouldn't have given Bernie Sanders the screw job, and then maybe they wouldn't have hopped over to Gary Johnson. And that's what the article's about. You can't screw somebody and then turn around and say, no, we still want your supporter. we might have screwed Bernie Sanders, but we still want all you young people to vote for Hillary Clinton. Because all the hip young kids, they're all about hooking on with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Now, I assume you watched the debate.
Ugh, yes. It was horrible. I wanted to bang my head on the wall. As a matter of fact, it's funny that I say that because on my personal Facebook page, I made a GIF, which is just a little animated thing of a guy banging his head on the wall for 3 seconds, and then I looped it. So if you watch it for 10 hours, it's a guy banging his head on the wall for 10 hours. I said, watch the debate. And again, and this is what I talked about in the article, I honestly don't know. If this election doesn't propel a third, and leave Gary Johnson out of it because he's made a few errors in the last week or two. Leave Gary Johnson. If a third party candidate can't make hay in this election, they ain't never going to do it.
Yeah.
Ted's shaking his head.
Well, apparently they can't, because what is Gary Johnson at? Like maybe 8%?
They said he actually dropped 1% this week. He was at 8, now he dropped to 7. And so now they don't want to do anything with Gary Johnson, and all the people who originally said he's a third option is like, oh wow, Gary Johnson, we can't have him. But here's the problem. Here's his 2 problems. You ready? Aleppo. He didn't know that was in Syria. Okay? We already talked about that on the other Beacon of Speech. He made a mistake. Okay?
And the thing is Aleppo, population-wise, is that the largest city in Syria?
Not anymore. Not since they bombed the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Now it used to be like the second. Right? Yeah. It used to be the second largest, and now it's like the 10th largest because,
so
the people are all dead.
Damascus the largest then?
I think Damascus, yeah. But so he screwed that up, and then this week he made the other error. I guess he was on CNBC or something, and they said, name a world leader that you respect.
I think now they're just messing with him.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing. And he goes,
Aleppo?
Yeah, Aleppo. That's what he said. That's what he said. He said, I'm having an Aleppo moment. Okay? Now.
Prime Minister Aleppo?
Well, that's the whole thing. The libertarian platform is America should mind its own P's and Q's, not worry about the rest of the world, and isolate themselves. They're isolationists. So, again, the theory is, like, let's say you're a vegetarian, right? Ted Coley, how do you like your... And you're not, but just for argument's sake. Ted Coley, how do you like your steak cooked?
Are you asking me, or...?
Yeah, how do you like your steak cooked? But you're a vegetarian. How would you answer that?
Medium well.
I didn't have... No, the whole point is they basically asked him opposite of what his platform was. Who do you respect? Right? Well, somebody who eats vegetables, they don't know how steak is cooked. Well, who's your favorite foreign leader? I don't really like foreign leaders. I don't think we should deal with them. Well, whether that's right or wrong, that's his platform. He came out 3 days later and said, I still can't think of anybody. I guess the former leader of Mexico. Right? But again, you can't say that. Now, let's go back. What Gary Johnson is having is a few senior moments. He's not used to preps. He's not getting prepped up. He's not getting lawyered up. 58, maybe.
Oh, okay.
He's still younger than Trump or Hillary.
Yeah.
But, again, and this is what I wrote in the article, Hillary breaks laws left and right. Trump is deplorable. And you're going to come after the guy because he's not good on his feet. And again, you can't win. If you have two multi-million-dollar corporations banging on you, you're not going to pass the pop quiz every time. Ted, what's the capital of Wyoming?
What's the capital of Wyoming?
Yeah.
Is there a Cheyenne?
Very good. What's the largest...
Is that it?
Yeah, very good.
All right.
What's the largest export of China?
Largest export of China?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Don't tell me. What does China export?
What year did we sign the Constitution?
1776.
Well, see that.
Well, that's the Declaration of Independence.
But see, you're Gary Johnson. I'm the press. I'm going to throw you up. We're going to have pop quizzes. See what you know, what you don't know. Last time I checked, the job is not pop quiz central. You examine stuff, you have meetings, you do this, you do that.
What is the largest export of China?
I think it's rice.
Rice?
I mean, I don't want to sound prejudiced, but I think it's rice. For all I know, it's, lithium or something. I don't know. But the whole point is...
And what about the Constitution?
It's 1776, you were right.
Well, that's the Declaration of Independence.
So maybe the Constitution was ratified a year later.
Yeah, okay.
But the point is that you can't run a campaign as we're going to pop quiz the candidate. You know what I mean? How do you feel about blah, blah, blah? You know what I mean? They prep up for that. How many times do you think...
I'm just picturing, it would have been funny if Gary Johnson was included in the debates.
Yeah.
And all they did was just ask him like little questions like, what's the square root of 81?
Yeah, what's the square root of 81? What? I thought we were going to talk about the wall on the Mexican border.
They don't even include him in the real debate.
Yeah.
They just ask him like questions like,
well, that's the thing.
if 2 trains left Chicago,
And that's what frustrates me. Gary Johnson should do better. And he should know where Aleppo is off the top of his head. But again, they always say on Jeopardy, they said Jeopardy is harder. When you sit at home, you're playing Jeopardy, right?
It's harder when you're up there.
It's harder when you're up there and you're staring at it than it is sitting in your own home.
Yeah, I believe that.
And it's got to be the same thing for Gary Johnson. He's not used to the media scrutiny. He's used to little, one-on-ones in New Mexico. He probably had a press conference and he knew the names of the 8 guys in New Mexico who did things. And so they're like, he doesn't know, he disqualified himself. No, you know what disqualified themselves? Hillary Clinton using unsecured emails. And again, people have got fired and their careers ruined for doing the same thing. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't know. Well, guess what? You fired people. You fired people in your office for the same thing.
I didn't know.
And it goes back, and I've been beating this up.
Well, it's like Rush Limbaugh says, the smartest woman in the world, and there's so many things she doesn't know.
Right. Bill Clinton was impeached for having sexual relations in the White House, right? And I've been saying this for 20 years.
Was his defense, I didn't know?
I didn't know we weren't allowed to do that. The whole premise is you work at Iron Mountain, okay? Now, we don't have interns at Iron Mountain, but pretend like we do. If you had sex with an intern at Iron Mountain, you would be fired. I work for the Avon City Schools. If I had sex with an intern, I would be fired. You would be fired. Somehow, he's president of the United States. He was able to keep his job. It's the same principle. People who get fired for doing the same things that they were doing, they're like, oh, well, I'm the president, And what I wrote in the article for the blog and Beacon of Speech is it's almost like these people are too big to fail. Trump is too big to fail. Hillary is too big to fail. Now, the big bombshell that happened today, it was even the day after, because I posted the blog yesterday. What's a big bombshell with Donald Trump today, Ted Coley?
Today?
Yes, today. Do you know what the big bombshell is?
I didn't hear any Donald Trump stories today.
In 1995, Donald Trump lost $925 million. They rounded up to $1 billion, which is fair. If you know the laws of rounding, you can round it up to $1 billion.
In 1995.
In 1995, he lost $1 billion. According to the law of the land, of the laws of the United States of America, what happens if you lose $1 billion?
You're bankrupt?
Basically, you do not have to pay taxes for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, in 1995, if he lost $1 billion, and then today is 2016, but we filed in April for 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't he release his taxes this year? The speculation is because he hasn't paid taxes in 20 years.
Oh, my God.
Since he lost the $1 billion in 1995. That was reported by the New York Times just this morning. We'll timestamp it. Today is October 2nd.
And you didn't hear anything about this before this morning?
Today was this morning. That was the bombshell. All the morning shows. As a matter of fact, when me and my wife were going to my parents' house, we were walking out the door, and I think it was Meet the Press was on in the background. what's the Channel 3 news? It's national news. I think it's Meet the Press. It could be something different.
Yeah, maybe.
But they were walking out and they said, well, what do you think of the revelation of Donald Trump might not have paid taxes for the last 20 years? And then they cut to half screen and it's Glenn Beck, right? And Glenn Beck goes, I want to start with saying I appreciate you having me on this morning. And I'm like, oh, geez. And I just walked right out of the room. I'm like, let's go. We got to go, right? So this is literally breaking news. So we get in the car, and my wife goes, well, what was that all about? What's the big breaking news that Donald Trump he lost $1 billion? And I said, I don't know the tax codes that well, but from what I've been hearing on the morning news, because I had it on in the background, I was tuning in and out. If you lose $1 billion in a year, there's some scenarios where you might not have to pay taxes for up to 20 years. And that's why he doesn't want to release his taxes for 2015, because in theory it could show that he hasn't paid if he didn't pay in 2015, he didn't pay in 2014, 13, 12, 20 years back. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my wife goes, we're basically broke. She goes, how is it fair that Donald Trump hasn't paid taxes in 20 years? And I said, welcome to America.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the premise of the article. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
He lost $1 billion in 1 year?
In 1995. Now, that's according to the New York Times. It hasn't been confirmed. But supposedly that's the revelation. That's the October surprise. They said that there's an October surprise coming with his taxes. There's supposedly an October surprise coming for Bill Clinton. I'm sorry, but not Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton. WikiLeaks is supposedly dropping something like literally classified information up the wazoo for Hillary. And then the October surprise for Trump is supposed to be there's going to be a revelation about his taxes. So October surprise 1 happened today.
So I'm thinking maybe he can take that $1 billion loss and divide it up over 20 years, write off, $50 million a year or whatever.
Right. But, and this is the other thing. And again, because this is why I'm not voting for him, because he's a scumbag. Donald Trump's argument is, that is a flat out lie. I pay taxes every day. Now, Ted, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's following the law,
right,
then what's the problem? You might not like the law. If he's not doing anything illegal,
that's what
then take it up with the people who made the laws.
Right. And that's what his Republican defenders are saying. They're like, well, technically everybody's upset about this, but the law says he's within his rights to sort out his affairs for the next 20 years if he lost $1 billion.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't break the law.
Yeah.
And which is what my wife is saying. She's like, well, if that's the law, how can that be? You know what I mean? How can it be part of the law that that's acceptable? And Donald Trump, before the October surprise, when's the last time you ate out for dinner?
Oh, God. It probably with Iron Mountain.
Okay, bad example. Name the last time you went to a store. Last time you went to Walmart or Target or something.
Maybe a week or two ago.
Okay, where'd you go?
Where did I go?
Yeah, where'd you go? If you don't mind me asking.
I went to Walmart.
Okay, you went to Walmart. So, and I'm not going to get personal with you. We'll just use generic stuff. So you went to Walmart. Let's say you bought paper towels and you bought toilet paper and you bought some snacks and some food, right? Your bill is $20, just for round numbers. Then you paid taxes. You paid taxes on that, and your bill came to $22.58 or whatever. Okay. You paid $2.58 worth of taxes. If Donald Trump was in here, he'd be like, I bought a plane for $1 million, and then the taxes on the plane was 7%, so technically it was $1.07 million because I just paid $70,000 in taxes, or, no, I think it would be $70,000. Would a $1 million plane? It would be $700,000.
Yeah, $100,000 would be 10%.
Yeah, so
it would be $70,000.
$70,000. I just paid $70,000 in taxes. So his argument is every time he made a purchase, he paid taxes. Yeah.
Well, it's not the same taxes.
Oh, yeah, but that's the whole thing. Yes, that's the point of the story. That's the whole point. So when he says he's been paying taxes, he's talking about sales tax. Everybody else is talking about income tax, and he's like, well, I paid my taxes. But then he's vague. And again,
well,
technically...
the thing is, though, is that, like Hillary was saying, maybe he doesn't want to, in that debate, she was saying maybe he doesn't want to release his tax returns because he didn't pay any taxes. It's
Right.
like, well, if he didn't and he's following the law, then it's your fault because you're the one who makes those laws. Or,
Right.
She...
Who's the person who's been in charge for the last 8 years? Obama. You worked for the Obama administration.
Now, if he's doing something illegal, then she has a point.
Right.
But it's like, take it up with your colleagues.
Yeah.
Well, she's not in the Senate anymore.
Why don't you walk down the hall? You were Secretary of State. Why didn't you walk down the hall and say, people like Donald Trump are getting over? You have the power to fix the problem that you are complaining about. And again, it's funny because, and we talked about this on last week in a speech, and I knew this was going to suck the air out of the room. Okay? Donald Trump was dead and buried after Khan, right? After Khan. And then Hillary Clinton's sick, she's passing out, she's having seizures, right? And all these rumors are going on. He came to even. He came to within even, right? And then all of a sudden, this past weekend, he's calling that Miss America girl a fat pig. And we have October Surprise 1. He may not have paid taxes for 20 years. Yes, I did. I paid sales tax at Walmart, just like Ted Coley. Me and Ted Coley are exactly the same, right? But, so, he's going to lose ground. And then if this WikiLeaks thing happens...
They said this debate was it the highest rated debate, like the most watched debate, or second?
Yeah, I heard it was, the ratings were through the roof, but I didn't hear exactly.
See, and you can, let me know if you agree with this. What I get from that is that people are looking at Donald Trump and saying, please, give me a reason to vote for you.
Yes.
And he is just shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah.
They do not want to vote for Hillary.
Correct.
And they're saying, please just give us anything.
Yes.
And he's just blowing it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, and this is another thing, me and you, we have a game board on the thing.
What I'm saying is that debate, the amount of people who watched that debate, that's because of Trump.
Yes. They weren't watching for Hillary.
Yeah. Just like the Carter-Reagan debate was, people were watching for Reagan.
Right.
Saying, please, we want somebody else. Show us that you're capable.
Right. Yes. Me and you, we have a game board on our table for Beacon of Speech. It's NFLopoly. It's like Monopoly, right? Another thing that Trump's been getting in trouble for is after the debate, they have all these quote, and I got air quotes in the air, all these quote unquote independent things said that Trump lost the debate. Okay? The thing I saw, because I'm on the Gary Johnson websites, it said, who did you think won the debate? And the stuff I saw on the Libertarian site said 35% thought Hillary won, 10% thought Trump won, 45% said neither wrong. And then in parentheses, the Libertarian wrote in, you spelled Gary Johnson wrong. Right? But even the independent ones are saying, Hillary won. And they said, so the question that the press has been posing to Donald Trump is, how do you feel after losing the debate? And what does Trump say?
I didn't lose the debate.
Yes.
I won.
He keeps saying, I won. And they said, no, you didn't. And he goes, the people I talked to said I won, and I feel like I won. Who are these people who said I lost? And they're like, well, the CNN blah, blah, blah poll. Well, that's because they're left-wing poll. Well, give us a right-wing poll. And they're like, oh, well, this one. They're like, well, they're not always right. But everything I've seen, my internal stuff says that I won. And it's like, he can't even agree that he lost the debate. Now, if you're playing a game like me and you, right? Say we're playing NFLopoly, right? And you have $1 million and I have $100,000. I'd be like, I won. And you're like, well, how do you figure you won? I said, because I played the game better than you. And you'd be like, well, I have $1 million. I said, well, that's one way of saying you won. But the way I say that I won, I have a different measuring stick. Well, I guess in Donald Trump's head, he's so delusional that he can say, in my head, I won.
I wonder if he really believes that, or if he just can't admit that he lost anything.
I'm going to use the example.
I mean, do you think he really believes that he won?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. And I'm going to give you the example. There's a guy on local radio, and he does fantasy football, right? And fantasy football, in the grand scheme of things, literally means nothing. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
Fantasy football does not change the world. And people who play fantasy football more or less are losers. More or less.
You know who's going to contact you now.
Yeah, I know. I know who's going to contact us. But, so, there's a guy on ESPN Cleveland. ESPN. I like fantasy football, right? I do. But it's just like playing a board game or video games. It's no different. You didn't change the world. Nothing happened. But, there's a guy in KNR 850. His name is Chris Fedor, but he got fired from 850. Now he's on 92.3 The Fan. And he used to do fantasy football things, right? And people would call him up and yell at him. They'd be like, I played the guy you said we should have played last week, and he sucked, and you were wrong, right? And Chris Fedor would always say, at the end of the day, I'm not wrong because I made the best decision available, and then the guy underperformed. It's not my fault because I made the right decision, and then it just came out wrong. He goes, and so the guy would never admit he was wrong. If you pick the wrong player, and then so his whole comeback is, I did all the pre-game studying for fantasy football, and I was right, and then the guy underperformed, and that's not my fault. Well, then if you, by that logic, you are never wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Donald Trump thinks. In his mind, if I'm not a politician, I stepped up to Hillary, I called her on her BS, I controlled the debate, I talked, like, I said 8,000 words and she said 7,000 words, I won. You see what I'm saying? People have different definitions of winning. Like, when I say winning, you think of Charlie Sheen. I don't think Charlie Sheen's winning, but, I'm winning. He's on NBC, or the Today Show, I'm winning. So,
it's like when they say there's no inflation and all they do is just throw out the stuff that has gone up.
Yeah.
And just focus on the stuff that stayed the same price. See, there's no inflation.
Yeah, there's nothing to see here. There's no inflation. So, like I said, so that was the article, and I knew we'd get sucked into it. And that's why I didn't do an outline today, because we're already up to an hour, and I wanted to do a shorter episode today. Because, again, that first prediction, by September 30th, I wanted to be somewhere. I enjoy doing Beacon of Speech with you, Ted. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing Beacon of Speech with me.
So, like, this prediction was made in February?
February 18th, 2016.
And then you write on it that you want to open it September 30th.
Yep. So I opened it up, and I thought it was from our 9/11 show. But it was from in February because Joe Kaufman was having babies and he was making fun of us. He was like, he said, I don't know if you guys are going to be on the radio anywhere. So, but again, radio's another dying industry like Iron Mountain. So they'd be like, well, we can't afford to take any chances. All we're going to do is news and weather and sports until, they pull the plug. So, and don't get me wrong. I'm probably delusional like Donald Trump. And they're like, well, the reason we don't ask you is because we listen to your stuff and it sucks. That could be possible. Just like Donald Trump. They'd be like, why do you think that we would want you when you suck? You know what I mean? Before the record, I'm voting for Gary Johnson. You're voting for Donald Trump. Neither one of us is voting for Hillary.
No.
And I'm telling you right now, there are very few people that I talk to. Everybody keeps saying, who are these people voting for Trump? I'm like, who are these people voting for Hillary? Almost everybody I talk to say they're voting for Trump or voting for Gary Johnson. Like the people that I
Yeah,
talk to.
maybe it's the people I'm talking to, but I haven't talked to anybody yet who comes out and says they're voting for Hillary.
Right. And maybe it's because the way I am, but like the one guy who does liquid radio that I talk to online all the time, right? He's an independent spirit, right? And I'm like, "Who are you voting for?" And he's like, "Gary Johnson, just like you." You know what I mean? Because he's maybe I gravitate towards independent, but people I'm talking to are either voting for Trump or voting for Gary Johnson. I'm like, where are these Hillary supporters?
Well, I went to one of my stops in Canton,
Right.
and I won't name any names, but a guy comes up to me. He's probably, I don't know, maybe 55, 60 years old.
Uh-huh.
He goes, he goes, I don't know how anybody could vote for Hillary. He goes, she's going to let all these Syrians in, and then she's going to take our guns away.
Well, but that's the whole thing. They're running on fear. I honestly, again, my whole thing with Hillary is she should have been disqualified just like her husband. And like I said, I didn't think her husband was doing that bad of a job.
No.
But he broke laws that me or you would be fired from our jobs for. Just flat out.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. There's a guy at our place of business. I'm gonna write down his name, but I'm not gonna say it out loud. Okay? Okay, I'm writing this down. That guy. If that guy put out Iron Mountain secrets, right, on an unsecure server and it was intercepted by Iron Mountain competitors, do you think they would have fired him?
Yeah.
I think they would have too. I think that he would have been out so fast he'd be spinning. Now, Spin Meister Steve, okay, I will say his name, who'll be like, oh no, they wouldn't have fired that guy because he's awesome, and he, because Steve isn't about the facts, he's about kissing ass and spinning things, right? But the guy that I wrote down, if he did what Hillary did, even though he's the most professional, most level-headed guy in that company, I think they would have fired him.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about me or you. I'm talking about somebody up, 4 layers at this point. And that's why when Hillary's like, well, the email servers, I was confused, I was this, I was that. You fired generals. You fired generals for doing the same exact thing. Well, technically, I didn't do it. Obama did. Oh, okay.
Do you think, like, Hillary is pretty much out of the woods as far as that goes,
yes.
right?
Yes.
But, like 3-6 months ago, it wasn't clear.
Correct.
What was going to happen. Do you think she was ever worried?
No, because I think that she has so many.
In that respect, do you think she's as delusional as Trump?
Oh yeah.
Like I didn't do anything. Do you think she honestly believes she didn't do anything wrong?
In her mind, she's like, that general did something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Mine was you gotta, again, the two of them are both. I firmly believe that they're both delusional.
Yeah.
And like I said, Gary Johnson, I don't think he's delusional at all. I just think he's not good at quizzes. I think he's not good on his feet.
Well, one of the guys that I work with had a different reason why Gary Johnson isn't good on his feet. He says it's because he's a stoner.
Well, that's another thing. The guy says, I climb mountains and smoke pot. Well, those guys are not quick on their feet. Literally, you hear those people, and I don't mean to begrudge them. They climb mountains. What are you doing on the mountain? Well, I'm thinking. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about geopolitics.
You can't think down here? Or?
Yeah, you can't think down here? Why do you have to go up on a mountain? All right, Ted. Because of situations that are beyond my control outside of Beacon of Speech, we are only doing a 1-hour show. Miles Davis. I have been addicted to Miles Davis ever since spring. And I listened to his new album, Dark Magus. DARK. Magus. Okay? That's the name of the album. It was a double live album. Okay? In 1974, Miles Davis was on the edge of the deep end. Okay?
74.
1974, he was on the edge of the deep end. He was taking his jazz and he was experimenting with noise. He was experimenting with funk. He was experimenting with a little bit of blues and rock. The critics are like, you're not playing jazz anymore. Miles Davis says, I hate critics. The rules don't apply to me. He made Dark Magus, Magus. In 1974, a couple of months later, he said, I'm going to retire from playing the trumpet. And he went on a 5-year bender of hard drugs and prostitutes. Okay? That's where we're at right now. We are on the edge. We are on the brink. This whole Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton thing. One more month of this. We are at the edge and we are on the edge of the cliff. Just like Miles Davis. So our song of the day is, for once, instead of song of the day, it's album of the day. Columbia released the album 2 years later because they were like, we have all this material and he's holed up banging prostitutes not knowing what planet he's on. We have to release something. So they released it 2 years. They didn't even know if he'd live through the night. So our dedication today is, we dedicate this to the late Miles Davis. So the album of the day is Dark Magus. Released in 1976, recorded in 1974 at Carnegie Hall.